Welcome to Taxpayer Empowerment. I'm Jose Melendez, Campaign Director for the Taxpayer Protection Project at TPPF. Today we're talking about a cornerstone of our democracy, election integrity, and the reforms needed to keep our elections honest, transparent, and accountable to the people. I'm joined by Chad Ennis, Vice President of the Honest Elections Project, one of the nation's leading voices on protecting voter confidence and promoting fair elections. Chad, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, nice to be here.
So let's start by something that's gaining traction at the national level, and that's foreign nationals directly or indirectly affecting, ballot measures here in Texas. If you will, there was a proposal here in Texas that would have gone at this. Currently there's loopholes around this. Talk to us about why it's important that we keep this foreign influence, this money from influencing ballot measures here in Texas.
Yeah, back in the last session, we had SB 35 or 2035 from Brian Hughes to address this issue. But really what it is we've got foreign money coming into ballot measure campaigns in this country on a pretty wide scale. We think about candidate elections, governor, senators, foreign nationals are barred by federal law from giving in those. But there's a loophole for ballot measures. Mm-hmm. And we've seen that loophole particularly exploited in not Texas as much yet as other states, but we've seen it very largely exploited in places like Ohio, Florida, states like that. And it started, our friends at American for Public Trust uncovered that a Swiss billionaire, Hans-Georg Wyss, which sounds like a Bond villain, and right. You kind of see him with a cat stroking it. But Hans-Georg Wyss gave approximately $280 million to the 1630 Fund. And if you know anything about the left's dark money machine, that's part of the Arabella networks. And we've seen then 1630 Fund give money directly in support of ballot measures of all the things that people on the right hate: abortion, minimum wage increases, all those things that we've seen pushed in ballot initiative states. So it's not a direct giving by him, and that's why it's so hard to detect. But it goes through a middleman and ends up right at a ballot measure. It's timely right now with Texas looking at 17 ballot measures right now, constitutional amendments. Any of those, Wyss's money could come in to affect the outcome. And we've seen it not at the state level in Texas that we've been able to trace, but we've certainly seen it at the local level in places like Houston and Austin, where that money finds its way into those elections.
So let's say any measure that comes through the legislature passes. How can we ensure that the prohibitions in place have real teeth, like that we have enforcement mechanisms that will prevent this from happening?
It's a really hard thing because we are respectful of the First Amendment, too, and you have to be careful that you don't go too far. The main thing is you want to get at this pass-through money. We haven't seen a lot of direct giving into the ballot campaigns, and that's usually illegal. But this indirect giving to someone who can give to someone else to put money in. So you have to work with that and work with the fact that a lot of times they're not saying it out loud. So if I give you, Jose, $280 million and say, go spend as you wish, and you spend it all on ballot measures, nothing was said there. There was no intent. So you really have to build the law where you can get at that. And that's a difficult dance, but many states have now tackled this problem. We're up to, I believe, 9 states. Ohio leading the way was the first one. Texas didn't get it over the finish line, didn't get through the House last session, but hopefully next session this is something that can get done.
So now let's shift to another reform that's very important as well, and that's consolidating elections. In Texas, we have elections that are held, throughout the entire year. It's what we call off-cycle elections, and a lot of times these elections are deciding big bond measures, big tax increases. In fact, before I get to my question, I want to read off a couple of recent examples. So Harris County back in May had an election with 2% voter turnout out of registered voters. 6 months prior, in November in 2024, they had a 43% turnout. That's a drastic difference. If you look at Dallas County, in May, they had a turnout of 8%. In November, prior to that election, they had a turnout of 58%. Another drastic difference. So my question to you is, what can be done to rein in these off-cycle elections?
Yeah, it's a problem. I think I read in the Statesman last week that Travis County has had 8 elections this year. Travis County is just one. There are too many elections in Texas. We're having way too many elections that aren't together. I'm not saying don't vote on more things, but I'm saying let's vote on them at a single time. So there was a bill in the last session, SB 1209, that really funneled everything into November elections. You have primaries, and then you have November elections. You leave some room for special elections. Someone dies in office, we've got to fill the seat, those kinds of things. But we really want to push it down to everyone's voting in November. That does a lot of things, right? Those 2% elections go away, and those get rolled into the 58%, probably raises a little more. But it also gets rid of some of these bad results we're seeing, or at least non-democratic results. Maybe not bad results is the right word. But things like when you're electing a school board with a 5% turnout election, or you're electing a city council in a 5% turnout election. Those aren't really representative of the school district or the city. And then you look at bond measures. I think it's a huge, and I know James Quintero over here has done some great research into this. Having these off-cycle, low turnout bond measures is bad for fiscal responsibility. You get the true partisans out who want to spend the money, and you end up with, all of a sudden you wake up on a Tuesday in May with $1 billion bond issue for your city or your school district. It's bad policy, and we need to get rid of it.
How do you respond to local officials who will say that these off-cycle elections give communities more flexibility?
Well, it gives them flexibility to try to sneak things through. I would agree with them. Yeah, I mean, when the bill was ran during the last session, you heard a lot of complaints from taxing authorities and the folks that benefit from the issuance of debt. That, well, we're just not going to be able to pass things if we do them in November with a high turnout election. It's like, well, maybe that tells you a little bit about your policy. Getting everything down where the people can get their full voice behind it is where we want to be, and it will make for better policy too. The bond measures will be more. We'll still see bond measures. We're not getting rid of those. We're going to need to have debt to fund infrastructure. We're always going to need that, but at least they can be more focused and better, I think, if we have it all in November.
So when we look at both of these issues, foreign influence, consolidating elections, it really speaks to, us trying to restore, public confidence in our elections. How does this fit into the bigger picture of trying to achieve that?
I mean, I think both things. Look, foreign influence in elections, no one is for that. That is apple pie and just anything you can think of that pulls high. I mean, it's an 80-90% issue. Left, right. I mean, you remember 2016, Russia. That's right. That was the left worried about foreign influence, and we've seen the worry on the right. So that's an issue we come together. All of us agree this shouldn't happen. Let's go and let's ban it. The left and the right can also come to common ground on consolidating election days. You look, the left always says, we hate low turnout elections. What can we do to increase turnout? What can we do to increase turnout? Well, one of the things you can do to increase turnout is have less elections. We've seen it time and time again that when they do that the local elections move to November and you see turnout grow. So this is something, and then once turnout grows, you've got more people involved. You get less close elections. When you have a 2% election, you're going to get closer elections. You're going to get things where, a lot of times 1, 2, 3, 4 votes decide, which can lead to a lot of litigation, a lot of questions about the election. So really, consolidating down, getting high turnout, margins will be bigger, and election integrity grows.
So final question. Where have we seen this, play out in a successful way in terms of consolidating elections, reining in foreign influence over elections? What other states have presented a pathway for Texas to follow?
Yeah, on the foreign funding first, Ohio was the leader on that. We've had more states follow, up to 9. It's an emerging movement, and I think what Texas needs to think about is as you press that money down in Ohio. And as you press that money down in Florida and Missouri, the money doesn't go away. So the money's going to go somewhere. And it probably will come to a state that folks care about, like Texas. So we've seen that be very successful. We've seen consolidating elections in a lot of different states. This is a really popular issue right now. Again, people don't like low turnout elections, regardless of their politics. And so you've seen it be very successful. And I think what was interesting in Texas during the last session, you saw, the big bill to do it for the entire state didn't pass. But you saw a handful, 5 or 6, where certain districts would ask, can we move ours to November? So you say, hey, school board out here, can we move ours to November? So you're seeing that consensus grow, that it's better. We know it's better. It saves money because we have less elections to run. So it's emerging, and it's a trend, and hopefully it'll continue.
Excellent. Chad, thank you for your leadership and your work with the Honest Elections Project to defend the integrity of our elections. Until next time, I'm Jose Melendez reminding you it's your money, your government, and your voice.